TED Talk today. My name is Aiden, and I'm with Ben, Noah, and Scott, and we'll be talking today about a research question we answered in our organizational behavior class this past fall.
Thanks, Aiden. So here, our research question today was talking about how do leaders hinder decision making? Now, no leader is immune to making bad decisions in certain organizations, no matter how good or how bad they could potentially be. So our research has to do with two theories, one known as the rational decision-making model and the leadership membership exchange theory. Through these theories, we're going to talk to you today on how leaders can hinder certain decisions.
Thanks again. So now we're going to be talking about the rational decision-making model and the decision-making problems within it. So if we look at this model here, once you have the level of expertise, you have two processes in order to make a decision. Either it's program decision-making or it is non-program decision-making. However, even when we use the non-program decision-making model here, which is way better, there's still decision-making problems that we have. One we will talk about further will be limited information, faulty perception, and escalation of commitment.
Thanks again, Ben. So now I'm here to talk about the other theory in our TED Talk today. So it's the leadership exchange theory. Now there's two levels of this theory. There's high quality exchange and low quality exchange. So let's talk first about how you get to high quality exchange. There is role taking and role making. Now role taking is when you come into a new position and the leader creates your job expectations. If you exceed those job expectations, you go into role making, when you start to get to voice your own opinions about your job expectations. If you exceed that as well, then that's when high quality exchange occurs. The high quality exchange is when a member and a leader have great levels of trust, communication, and respect, and it's more inclined for a leader to include you in decision making. So when there's high levels of high quality exchange, that's when more facilitative decision making is being made. But low quality, if there's low quality exchange, which is the exact opposite of high quality exchange, that's when a leader starts to be inclined to make more autocratic decision making. Now, autocratic decision making is when just the leader makes their own decision without regard for anybody else in the organization. We see this theory in place with our case study that we'll be explaining to you today, with the case of Ron Johnson, who became the CEO of JCPenney in 2011. Due to this theory and his autocratic decision making, really hindered and ultimately almost failed JCPenney.
Now I'm going to talk about our case study, which is Ron Johnson. So he was the former president of retail operations at Apple Incorporated. However, in 2012, he was appointed to the position of CEO for JCPenney because he thought he could make the stock prices double with his learned strategies. Unfortunately, because he had a lack of experience within the clothing market, mixed in with aspects of decision-making problems, he lost the company an estimated $1.3 billion and was forced to resign. He was surely using the rational decision-making model. However, there are still decision-making problems that arise with using this model. To start, limited information. So he had limited information about the clothing market, and whenever he got rid of fake pricing, couponing, and reduced private label brands, this was all important to the customer experience, and he completely got rid of them. As well as having faulty perceptions, so this also caused a distortion between what he thought the consumers wanted and what the shoppers actually did want in their stores. So even though he was an established businessman at the time, these decision-making problems such as limited information and faulty perceptions played a role that led to his demise and the ultimate downfall of JCPenney.
So now we're going to talk about this theory, the leadership exchange theory, and how it worked in the case study of Ron Johnson at JCPenney. So as explained before, Ron Johnson replaced most C-level positions within 1 year of coming into the organization. This created the low quality exchange between the C-level positions and Ron Johnson, which required Mr. Johnson to make decisions based on his own intellect, which wasn't very good because his experience with clothing wasn't very high, and made decisions that did not benefit him or his employees. For example, one thing that Ron Johnson took away is the sales commission that the employees got at the stores. Now he did this in effect because he wanted the employees to focus more on the customers instead of the sales. But it irritated many employees, not necessarily because of the commission being taken away, but because this decision had been made with no knowledge that it was taken away from them until after the decision had been put into effect. Now, not only did Ron Johnson confide in very few people, but the people he confided in upper management did not communicate with the store managers as well. For another example of the low level of communication because of low quality exchange occurred was that store managers had only access to their sale numbers in their stores and not others. This hindered the organizational workplace because the store managers had no idea how they stacked up with the other JCPenney's. They had no idea if they were above their class, or if they were in the middle, or if they needed to increase their sales. Due to the low quality exchange, that required Ron Johnson to make autocratic decisions, which hindered his decision making because he had no knowledge of clothing material and low levels of communication with the management team and the employees, which made him hinder the organizational workplace.
Social effectiveness of a group better predicts the success of the group over the total IQ points of its members. To create strong social connections and bonds between members, you need a leader with strong emotional intelligence. Once you create strong social effectiveness within a group, you have better decision making from the leaders and his or her followers. Ron Johnson at JCPenney lacked the emotional intelligence skills that he needed for the position. He wasn't able to consider programmed and non-rational parts of the decision-making processes, and wasn't able to use feelings of empathy towards his employees to help reconsider ruthlessly downsizing his operations in Texas, in the Texas headquarters. Johnson also failed to have strong listening skills and to ask questions and to really internalize the criticism and inputs he had from senior management and his followers. When a leader does possess strong emotional intelligence skills and is able to understand the positions, needs, and wants of his employees through empathy, and to be able to listen attentively to his or her followers, the leader is able to promote strong decision making within the organization.
So to conclude our presentation on why we believe leadership hinders decision making, we're going to take a look right here on the decision making problems which lead up to non-programmed and programmed decision making, which we believe led to the downfall of our case study involving JCPenney and Ron Johnson. As Noah talked about before, there's two types of roles that the CEO has to take within the organization. There's role taking and role making. Role taking and role making was not one of Ron Johnson's strong suits, as we believe that led to the downfall within the organization. Ron Johnson came from a different background, which hindered his decision making from Apple to JCPenney, which are two very different companies. That is why we believe leadership can hinder decision making.